Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. Instead of doing my own personal stock experience, we're going to be taking a look back on a dead company, a dead stock, and I decided to turn on the face cam for this one just to see how well it worked with my style of videos. If you guys like it, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like button. So basically, Blockbuster, for those who don't know, which I'm sure most of you do, it was a video rental company in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they just got huge, and they had a monopoly basically on the video rental market. And essentially what you'd do is you'd go into their physical stores and you'd buy or you'd rent a movie on VHS. You could rent TV series on VHS too. You could even rent games at one point. So they were basically massive in the late 90s, early 2000s. But basically what happened to them, how did they fail, where are they today? These are all questions that I'm going to try to address in this video. So essentially, to talk about the downfall of Blockbuster, we need to first talk about the rise of Blockbuster. So in the 90s, nobody was doing what Blockbuster did. There was no Netflix, there was no you couldn't Redbox a movie, you couldn't rent a movie through Redbox. And there were very little rental stores all around. Most of the rental stores were mom and pop rental stores, and Blockbuster is kind of the first to turn it into a big chain, and a bunch followed, a couple followed that you might know, like Hollywood Video and stuff like that. So essentially they got massive in the late 90s. Their success continued well into the 2000s. But late 2000s, things started to slow down, and then they stagnated, and then they just plummeted, and they never really looked back. So all that exists of Blockbuster now that I have found is there's an advertisement for a Dish Network service, and it is called Movie Night by Blockbuster, and that is the only thing I've heard from them in probably 13 years, which is kind of sad in my opinion, because there used to be a Blockbuster kind of next to my house, and me and my family would always go there on like a Friday, and we'd always rent movies to watch together, and you'd bring it back the next day or a couple days after. So basically the few reasons why Blockbuster failed essentially narrowed down to poor management. The CEO was kind of an idiot. Netflix, more technological advances, Redbox, just a bunch of little aspects. So a little fun fact for you guys is that Netflix actually offered themselves to Blockbuster in 2000. So basically, Blockbuster was going to partner up with Netflix. That's what Netflix wanted, because they were a small company at the time. And they basically said, hey, we will let you guys open an online division to Blockbuster, and then we will take care of that, and you guys take care of the physical stores. And the CEO of Netflix actually got basically laughed out of the room. Like, no one cared about what he was saying. They thought it was all stupid. They thought it was never going to take off, and now look what happened. This is essentially the result of that on this stock graph right here. So let's just go ahead and get into the stock history of Blockbuster. So when they first went public, this was in about 1999, and you could see the volume is very good. I don't know if you could see it because of the face cam, but you can see the volume is very, very good here, and they peaked in late 2002 or early 2002, and this was the last time that Blockbuster would ever hit an all-time high. I bet that people, shareholders and executives of companies and executives of Blockbuster never thought that they would never see something like this again, which is kind of crazy to think about if you ask me. But anyways, it peaked in May 2002, the share price at least, and then it was basically all downhill from here. And in the early 2000s, they were okay. Getting into like the mid 2000s, they were okay, and there were still physical stores around, and there were still plenty of them, but it was definitely on the decline, because at this time Netflix was offering mail order movies. So basically you'd rent a movie online, they'd mail it to you, and then you just mail it back. Now that did have a drawback to it, and that was that you'd have to wait a couple days to get your movie in, and then you'd have to send it back, which was kind of a hassle, but I'm getting to that here in a second. So Blockbuster still definitely survived through the mid 2000s, but really here they were plagued by poor management and the poor CEO. just made a lot of very bad decisions for the company. They actually had an online streaming service at one point, but they decided to scrap it, and it was actually doing better than Netflix. Netflix's streaming service, when it first came out, it was doing better than that, but they decided, we need to focus more of our capital onto physical locations and stuff like that. And it was a really cool service too. Like, it was similar to Netflix, and you could rent movies online, and then they mail them to you, and then basically instead of mailing them back, you just drop them off at a store, which was a really cool idea in my opinion. It was a really good way to compete with Netflix, but they decided to scrap that idea. They decided to scrap the streaming idea, and this was basically the result of that in the kind of mid to late 2000s. And and then as you guys can see here, in about 2005, that's where things really started to plummet, and then they kind of flattened out in the very late 2000s. The early 2010s were just a horrible time for Blockbuster stock. This is obviously delisted now. You cannot buy Blockbuster anymore, but up until a couple years ago, you still could buy Blockbuster, and it was trading at about 35 cents, and sometimes it was trading like less than that. It was crazy, and it's really crazy to see such a large decrease from $23 a share to 35 cents a share, just in a period of about 10 years. And the crazy thing about it is, I bet in 2002 nobody thought that Blockbuster was going to fail. Everyone thought that it was going to keep surviving and keep thriving and keep just moving up the ranks and just kind of crush every single competitor ever. And things could have definitely been different for Blockbuster had they have taken Netflix up on their offer. But at the same time, in a way, I can kind of understand why they didn't, because they were so much bigger than Netflix at the time. They were kind of the fat cats on the road. They basically did it because they wanted to compete with Netflix, and they wanted to kind of flex their muscles and show that they could crush Netflix in a way. But look at what ended up happening. So Netflix is now worth, I believe, $28 billion, which is way more than Blockbuster is ever worth as a company. And it's just crazy. And basically technological advances, failure to adapt, and poor management kind of came into play with Blockbuster's downfall. So yeah, that's basically all I had to say in this video. I thought it was a pretty interesting topic to cover because it's always interested me, these dead companies, these companies that were big players 10 years ago, and now they're just unheard of. Basically, they're just gone and forgotten. And I just think these are really interesting. If you guys would like to see me make more videos in this sort of style, definitely let me know in the comments below. Hit the like button, and don't forget to ring the bell to get notified when I upload. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.